Hi everyone, Julian here with another tutorial on Project 6. In this tutorial we're going to go over how we can import our Rhino site plan into Adobe Illustrator in order to have a little bit more control into editing our line widths and our layers. So how we're going to go about doing this is creating another Rhino file that's at the 1:1 scale for our paper. So what you want to do here is open another Rhino window, go new, and then go into small objects centimeters. So large objects will be for buildings, small objects will be for anything that's at the true paper size. So we'll do open. We'll go back to this file. We're going to select our map. In this case, this is my 1:1000 transect map. I'm going to go to the top here. I'm going to paste it. You'll notice that we can't see it, and it's because it's at 1:1 scale, so it's very big in this file. So what you can do is you can type zoom selected command, which is ZS, and then it's going to zoom to where it is in the file, which is very far away. Then we're going to do a move command, M, and then grab the bottom left corner, and then I'm going to type 0, 0, 0. And what this is going to do is move it to the origin. And then once we've done that, we can do ZS again, and then you'll see that this is now at the origin of our file. The next step is to scale this drawing. So if this is my 1:1000, I want to hold shift, and then before clicking one of these gumball arrows, either the green or the red, holding shift, clicking, and then typing in the scale. So in this case, it's 1:1000, 1 divided by 1000. If this was your 1:500, it would be like this. If this was your 1:100, it would be like this. Once you've put in the scale, press enter, and it's going to proportionally scale down your drawing to the scale of your piece of paper. So we can take the corner with the move command again, and then go to 0, 0 again, zoom selected, and now we have it nicely on our grid here. How Illustrator works is we're only going to be able to see our drawing if it fits within this box, basically in Rhino. Otherwise, once we export to AI, we probably won't be able to see it, or it'll be similar to Rhino. It'll be off to the side and difficult to find. So we want it kind of centered here. So the next step is to just double check that we've indeed got it at the right size. So we could do a 50 centimeter by 90 centimeter box. If I draw that and bring that here, it's looking pretty good to me. So I think we've done this correctly. So once you've got all this set up, we can select everything, go to File, go to Export Selected, and then we're going to select Adobe Illustrator, AI, and then find a place where you'll find this file. So I'm going to go Illustrator here, and I'm going to do Rhino, Illustrator, Export, P6. So once I've exported that, save that as that, I'm going to get this option here. So it's AI export option. So we're going to select this option. It says preserve model scale. And we want 1 centimeter to equal 1 centimeter. This way we don't have to adjust the scale because we know that the scale is correct to our paper. So I'm going to hit OK. That's going to export an AI file. Now our next step is to open Adobe Illustrator. So make sure that you've downloaded Adobe Illustrator from the Creative Cloud. We'll go to New File, and then we're going to set the units here to centimeters. And then we're going to do a depending on if it's a landscape or a portrait, right? Like these may be different for you, but mine, because it's portrait, I've got a 50 centimeter width and a 90 centimeter height. And if yours was a landscape orientation, then it would be the opposite like this. And you can use this convenient button here. So I'll set this up and then I'll call this my project 6 sheet or poster 1 to 1000. We'll hit OK or create. Might take a second here. So here's my sheet that's ready to go. The next step is to go to File, Open, and then we're going to find where we exported that Illustrator file from Rhino. I'm going to open that, and then maybe we can see if we can update this. Just because I have some text there. So next step is to copy everything that you see here from the file, go back to our poster, paste it, and then you'll see that maybe it didn't quite land exactly to the center of the poster. So what we can do is, similar to Rhino, we're going to move this corner to the corner. So that's why we kind of have like a border around this, so that it's easy to kind of get in the corner. And you'll notice that if you're careful, it'll kind of just like a magnet, just auto align to the corner, which is helpful. So now we've got our file in Illustrator. Some things that we can do once we're here. We can go to Window here, and we can go to Layers, and then you'll notice that I've only got one layer for my entire project. So that's not ideal because we want to have like a bit of layer organization. So what we can do here is go to this. So this is V, or the direct selection tool, and start organizing our layers. So I'll click on this building hatch, and I'm going to do select same appearance. Now that I've done that, I can create a layer here and call this my buildings. And if you see this little tiny colorful box, you can drag this up, and then now all my buildings are on this layer. I can turn them off and on. Same thing with my shadows. I'm going to select one of my shadows. I'm going to do select same appearance. I like to do a group command, so like just Control G. It's going to group all of them. New layer. When you click this little sandwich thing, and then shadows, and go up to shadows there. And we can keep going like this. I'll do select same appearance, select all of my contour lines, go new layer, oopsies, new layer, contours, drag that there. And slowly we're getting everything organized. Select same appearance, then I'll do new layer, roads, or trade lines. And then again, we've got our trees here. Select same appearance, group, new layer, trees. So now that we've got all of that, we can start editing these kinds of layers. So for my contours, I could hit this circle here, and that'll select all my contours. If I go down to the stroke option here, I'll get a little bit more options here by hitting this sandwich, which opens more options as well. You also have stroke that's adjustable here on this arrow. But basically we can see how this will actually look like on our piece of paper. So maybe a 0.5 is too thin for a line width. Maybe I want to add a, or sorry, 0.25 is too thin. Maybe I want to add a 0.5, and it's just kind of like this light line. Maybe I want it at, I'll select it all again. Maybe I want it more at a 1. And you can kind of see my topography lines lightly on the page. Other things that we can do here, We could go in, let's select our trees, let's say, and we want to add like a opacity. We can go to our properties here and like change the opacity of these. So like maybe for our shadows, like maybe we want to see those topography lines underneath the shadows, right? And one way we can do that is by adding an opacity so that we can actually see through this fill. So this is something that we can't do in Rhino, is playing with opacity. So that's a pretty neat tool. You can also change the order of things. So like maybe I want my contours all the way at the back, right? But then I'll have to adjust my roads to have like a certain opacity so that I could see um, my contours beneath them, right? Sort of like this. Other things that we can do here, we could go to window, we could go to swatches. This is where all your colors are going to be stored. So here, what we can do is also go to window and then go to the color there. We can find like a color that we like. Let's say I really want to have my trees be a certain color. I can go and find a green. I can take this fill color, drag it into my swatches. So now it's been added to my project. And then once I click on my trees here, I can click on this box and then change all the tree colors to the green that I had selected there. So now that's a green. And then in the case that I wanted other things to be that same color, I could click on this building per se, use this eyedropper tool or the eye command, and then match that green. So then anything that I click is going to match that color and stroke. So maybe I want these just to be like a light gray because I'm trying to go for like that opacity look, or like grayscale look. Same thing with my shadows. Maybe I want these to be a bit lighter. So you can play with either opacity or you can play with these different tones of gray here, right? Other things we can do for your legend, you can create text. So we might want to create text here using the text tool. You can type, you can use whichever font suitable for this. Maybe I'll use like Futura, this example. You can adjust the size of the text by selecting all the text and then changing the font size here. Maybe I want to get rid of my Rhino text. You can create shapes like a square shape here for like where your legend might go. If you hit this, you can swap the inside to the outside of the color. You could also create like a fill. So let's say we wanted to create a box here for a legend and we wanted it to have a little bit of an opacity so we can still see a bit behind it. You can put this on its own layer, create a legend layer, put that at the top, create a text layer, and then now if I take this legend here, move that up to the front, then I can see that in the front. And then still see like a little bit of like a ghosted view of my road if I play with this. Kind of like something like that. And then what you can do using that eyedropper tool is do things like pick the building here and then match that black, and then you could do something like buildings. Then we know that this hatch is for buildings. Sort of like this. Similarly, we could do this for something like our roads, let's say. So I could hit this square, eyedropper a road, and then I could set a black stroke, let's say, on this if you wanted to. Kind of like that. And then if you wanted to have no border here, you could also just have no border. And then it just kind of whites out that area. So play around with these settings, kind of create a legend that looks suitable in terms of size for your project or your site plan. And yeah, you could move that around. So if we want to play with the hatching and colors in Illustrator, we can go to the Window and Swatches panel. And what this will let us do is we can select fills in our project by selecting our layers and changing our fills all at once. So I could pick different gradients of gray here if I liked. And I can also go to this bookcase and then go to patterns, basic graphics, and then we could go something like dots here, and then we could change our fill for our buildings to a different type of hatch. And then if we chose that this was indeed what we wanted to show our buildings as, we could hit the hatch here, hit the eyedropper tool, and then match it, and then see how we can kind of communicate that this hatch means this in our legend. So maybe for now I'll keep this the way that I had it, but maybe for my trees, let's say we want something along those lines, or I could go to my patterns, textures, and then pick something, let's see, like sticks, kind of has some sort of a shrub or tree-like look to it. Create a new category in our legend. Just as an example, hit my little square and then match it. And then now we can identify what are our trees, what are our roads, and what are our buildings. Similarly, what we can do is also change the line work. So let's say I have these contour lines and I wanted to change them, the stroke pattern. I can click on stroke here, or I can go to the window and then stroke. And although I probably wouldn't recommend changing your contour lines to dash lines, we'll just kind of use that as an example. Here you can select the dashed option, and now all of a sudden all of our contour lines are dashed, and we can change the spacing here by adjusting. Let's say we want closer knit spacing, we can do a 6-point, and then if we want kind of gaps between that, we can define the gap between each of those dash lines. And then we can also adjust the thickness of this line, right? If we want a kind of more prominent line. So for those of you who have paths, like passive travels to the kind of like landscape of your site, this might be a really useful way to illustrate that. What we can also do here is we can create arrowheads as well. So let's say you wanted to kind of indicate the direction in which movement is occurring for your layers of geographic information. You can pick that here. You can also change the scale of these arrows so they can become quite large. So some ideas there. And then let's say you also want to adjust the stroke on your buildings, you can, let's say, invert these. So now I have a white fill for my buildings. Well, actually, this is not white. This is like no color. So what you would want to do, select all your buildings, replace this kind of white with a red bar with the white here. Now there's a white fill on my buildings, and then maybe I want to change the stroke around them. I could select like a 2 stroke, and then it becomes a little bit stronger. Let's say I want to kind of change things up a little bit, and I want a black background for my drawing. I could create a new layer and set that, drag it to the bottom so it's at the bottom of my layers. Uh, Swap this around so that I'm creating a black fill. Go to the rectangle, or you can press M. You could drag from one point to the other point, and then see how now we can create very quickly a background for our drawing. So this is like kind of like a new style maybe I want to go with, is I want to have my figure ground be have like a black background with white figures for the buildings. So we can very quickly kind of try a lot of different things with the hatches and the layers. So it's helpful to have like good layer organization for this. And then we can kind of see how this will work with our site legend as well, right? So like how legible is this? So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good rest of your day.